Okay, one of the first rhythm sounds we're going to play for you is a patch that we've called the Devil's Island patch. It's actually printed out Devil's Isle, so if you skip past it, that's what I'm talking about. The number for it is A3, and Willie's going to tell you a little bit about what makes up this patch.
Okay, if you're not familiar with the G2 series of the Zoom pedals, inside there's a few different simulations of classic amps. During this period in Megadeth, Dave used a lot of classic Marshall type heads. This particular patch is based off of what would be a JMP or an early JM800 sound head like he used at that time, with a healthy bump of EQ and a high gain setting to get that early thrash crunch. Maybe just with a little splash of ambience for that spread, the sound that you hear on the Peace Cells album. And Dave can demonstrate a bit of that now, as you can hear what I'm talking about. It's the same kind of crispy upper early Megadeth sound.
And this is kind of more along the lines of what we would consider pedaling. So. Okay, so that's some of the possibilities with patch A3. We're going to move over to another rhythm sound now for you. Okay, the second patch we're going to do is the Rest in Peace patch, and the Rest in Peace record was a little bit different playing for us because we started to move away from a lot of the pedaling stuff and get more into the riffs specifically. So in this patch, the number is A7, and you can listen to Willie explain this patch right now.
Okay, once again, as I mentioned before, the G2 series has a lot of different amp models. There's things like old tweed Fenders. There's more modern boutique Soldano type amps. This particular one is based off of one of the more modern British type amps. I believe it's maybe like a 900, 800 series Marshall. Once again, not quite as bright and crunchy as the early Megadeth stuff. Around Rest in Peace, things got a lot fatter, tones got a bit darker, but it still had that sizzle. So this patch is made with that amp in mind in those settings, and it has more of a modern Megadeth sound, similar to the Rest in Peace album, hence the title.
And again, we called this particular style more riffing because we're doing a series of notes over and over again. And the song that I'm going to show you is Tornado of Souls. And that is more riffing. This last patch for rhythms that we're going to show you today is a patch from Symphony of Destruction from the Countdown to Extinction record. And in this particular part of the chorus, we're using a chord. And one of the things that I've always liked doing is picking things upside down. Thus the pattern. And at full volume, it obviously sounds a little bit better than that. But we had a sound that was a little bit more of what I called a swirly kind of sound when I was explaining it to Max Norman, who had worked with us on that record. And it consisted of a little bit of a coarse kind of sound, a little bit of phaser kind of sound. But instead of me saying kind of, again, I'll turn it over to Willie and he'll tell you exactly what it is.
Okay, a lot of, especially the Megadeth fans may remember at the time the album came out, the band started experimenting more with adding samples, other textures, other guitar effects. There was more modulation brought in. Things were branching out a little bit. I wanted to try to make sure that Dave and I recreated some of that effect. So on the Symphony of Destruction patch, some of you also may remember there was a remix of the song that was kind of an industrial remix that personally I was a big fan of it as well. So we decided maybe we'd bring a bit of that here.
Trent Reznor did that, by the way.
Oh, I can remember. I did. Okay, cool. So what we did was create the same thing with the basic Megadeth sound. Went old school, got one of the British style heads, added a treble booster to add some of that crunch and add a little bit of gain to it, and then added an extra heavy gate so that during the voicing for the verse, you get this kind of almost semi-industrial cut off of the note something that like Dimebag Darrell also was famous for doing, and Dave incorporated as well. And then there was a bit of just modulation effect, just to add to a little bit, as Dave said, the kind of swirling effect, just add a little bit of movement to the sound, a little bit of spread, as chorusing and flange and effects like that became popular in the 80s and 90s. It was incorporated and done in a Megadeth kind of style.
So this is what it's going to sound like when you play the chorus to Symphony of Destruction with this patch. And those are just some of the many rhythm patches inside of this bad boy. Okay, for those of you that play lead guitar, not all of you do, some of you may just be a rhythm guitar player. If you are a lead guitar player, this patch is for you. And if you're not, don't be afraid to try this, because it's a really cool sounding patch. This is the patch for Holy Wars that Willie and I came up with, and it has a particular sound, like we were saying earlier with the Rest in Peace sound, where it was more along the lines of the riff. So the sound was aggressive and tight, and in this solo sound, we had the amplifier I was using completely turned all the way to 10 on everything. So when the song starts and I roll the volume back on the pickup, you can hear the amplifiers groaning with overdrive, and we tried to simulate that the best that we could here. And Willie can tell you a little bit about what's in this patch here.
Okay, yeah, when we built this patch, once again, we used a British head and a healthy dose of EQing. One of the things about this pedal is there's a bunch of different elements of each preset that you can choose and add in. So there's some EQing you can add in addition to the tone EQing you can do on each individual amp model. And instead of using an overdrive type effect, I chose to use a booster, which is similar to what a lot of the classic rock and metal players did. They put like a treble booster or something on, and that was what pushed their amps into the overdrive mode. When Dave recorded this album, this song, he used a Marshall head, and they dimed everything out. All the EQ, volume, everything was turned on 10. So to simulate a lot of that, we once again boosted the EQ in the amp, added some EQ to boost the lows and the mids, and then added an external booster pedal, which is in the G2 series, and I boosted the end from that. Something else that maybe a lot of people don't realize is you can add any of these effects, and with this controller pedal, depending on which effect you use, you can get control over the parameters of that with this controller foot switch. In the case of this patch, we've assigned it to the delay. So if Dave plays, he's got the dry sound, and as you bring the pedal in, you bring in more delay. And you can go in and preset what your zero level is versus what your full wet or the strength of that signal is, and then just vary the amount that you want by bringing the pedal either to the toe down or the heel down position.
And this solo is the end solo in Holy Wars. I'm going to start in the center of it because the beginning is a lot of, like I said, the amp groaning. And so I'll pick it up here once I've already gone down the neck and started my way back up. Unbelievable, isn't it? Okay, this is going to be our last invitation into the world of the new G2.1DM guitar pedal from Zoom. There's so much more we can tell you, but we just don't have the time, and you need to figure it out for yourself. One of the patches that Mark had told us that he likes, Mark Mengi, who was responsible for putting this whole thing together, told us that the In My Darkest Hour patch that Willie and I created is something that he likes. So we're going to discuss that one right now. The beginning of In My Darkest Hour is a track from a record called So Far So Good So What. It was our third record, and we had experienced our first lineup change at that point, so it was really upsetting to us. And the new guitar player that came in had a different amplifier and a different guitar and a different playing style than what we had. So there was a lot of readjustment going on, but one thing that I knew and I was consistent with was my own sound. So when we had done In My Darkest Hour, first off, I wrote the song the day that I heard that Cliff had died in the car accident, Cliff Burton for Metallica, because we were really very close. And I got the word, and I immediately wrote this song. And the beginning was something that I felt needed to be really clean and really moody. And as best as it sounds on the record, I think that this patch is as good as that, if not better than the patch that's on the record. And Willie will explain a little bit to you about how we got this clean sound.
Yeah, as Dave mentioned something about adjustment with sounds, another thing that's amazing about this pedal is the flexibility of it. There's a feature here where you can turn on a direct line. What you can do is, I know a lot of you people maybe do a lot of things with home recording. You can use this to go directly into recording devices, and there's different cabinet simulators on there. You can simulate a 212 cabinet, a 412 cabinet, a 410, and in addition to that, there's also the other tweaking of the various parameters, whether it's tonally with EQ, gain levels, things like that. So once you get this, all these presets you can also tweak to suit your playing style and the gear you're using. Some might have a combo, some may be sending it direct, some guys may have a stack, different types of guitars. You can tweak any of these to fit what you're doing, which is great. This clean sound is also really good because this has a lot of really good acoustic simulators as well, and you can modify those with different levels of reverb, delay, chorusing, and just kind of tweak it till you get it to what you think is right for you, and I think it's really good.
So we're going to play this last little patch for you. This part was played on an acoustic and an electric, and it's a little weird because it's a pretty spread chord, so if I make any mistakes like that, just live with it. Hope you've enjoyed your time here with me and with Willie, and I'd like to thank everybody at Zoom for this awesome guitar panel. Thank you for your time today. Now get playing.